Hi there, this is Alvin, and welcome to the Kickstart Commerce podcast, where we share search marketing and domain investing strategies to help grow your business. In today's episode, our guest is Alex Verdea, a longtime domain investor and the founder of the AudiencePortal.com domain marketplace. Today, Alex and I discuss how an early career in sales at Radio Shack paved the way for his entry into domain investing. Alex also reveals the one game-changing thing every domain investor needs sooner rather than later. We also discuss how refining his strategy of quality, quantity, and time led to laser-focused domain investing across 4 industries. And last but not least, Alex shares a few sales as well as a new strategy he's perfecting to move from single to portfolio domain purchases. So with that, Alex, welcome, and thank you for making time to join us today.
Alvin, thank you. Thank you for having me. I think you provide a lot of value for all domain investors out there. And I'm excited to have an interview with you today.
Yeah. Certainly. Thank you so much. So to kick things off, Alex, briefly share with our listeners at a high level just a bit about yourself, who you are, your personal and professional background.
You know, I found myself to be a domain investor kind of by accident. It's been a long time ago. I was in college, and one of my first jobs were a sales guy. I was a sales guy at a Radio Shack. So I'm not sure if Radio Shack is still around, but back in those days we were selling electronics, cell phones, and we were actually getting base pay and commission pay if you sold like phone contracts and stuff like that. So that was my first job and into sales. And on the side, back then I used to buy and sell laptops, fix them up, flip them on eBay, sort of thing. So I was always looking for ways to collect a little bit more money and support myself through college. Just doing research, reading, and whatnot. I kept seeing people selling domain names, flipping domain names. And for a lot of money, I was like, oh wow, this is something. And the whole since domains are not a tangible asset, that was very appealing to sell products like laptops, cell phones, whatever. You have to have a warehouse or at least storage space and
Right.
Everything like that. So I was like, domains is it's something. So started investing in domain names early 2000s.
Oh, so this is like right before, I guess, the .com crash then,
I missed that. I missed that boat. the .com boom and the crash. I missed that boat. I missed a lot of things. I missed the Bitcoin boat too. So in recent times, that's the latest one I can think of that I missed.
So like back in the early 2000s, so when you stumbled up on domain investing and figured out it was a thing, rather it was a whole new world for you, like how did you stumble up on it? Was it that you went through Name Pros, DN Forum, or just how did it come about?
I think I read an article. That's kind of what sparked my interest. And then next thing I know, I found myself on Name Pros. I did. I got on Name Pros, started reading and learning a little bit. Back in the day, there was only really one platform, and that was Sea-Doo. They were the only ones around that were really kicking. And the big sales, you saw on there. They used to report the sales. I think They don't anymore. They used to have like a feed. You can kind of see all the sales, and I was like, oh wow, fascinated, right? So that's how I started. I hand registered a bunch of names, terrible names at first, I must admit. I didn't really know what I was doing back then. Right.
It was like, I call it registration excitement.
Right, registration excitement, right. So if you're a new domain investor, don't do that. As a matter of fact, I wanna say this. If you remember anything out of this podcast, remember this one thing: try to get a mentor. Okay, try to find somebody or join like a mastermind group or something like that. Don't pray and pray, as I call it. Don't just register a bunch of names.
And hope for the best.
and hope for the best. That's the wrong way. So if y'all remember anything, you may or may not listen to the whole podcast here. I might not be that interesting, but remember this: just get a mentor, join a mastermind group. I'm a big proponent of reaching up. So,
Definitely. So then, in terms of those, like, do you remember any of the names that you originally registered?
I do. I believe one of my first. I only remember the sales. I had terrible names. I think I registered a bunch of .mobies too. Never sold one. I actually, here's the fun fact. I registered some .tel.
Wow. So .tel, right?
.tel. Okay, so I registered and sold the .tel. I might be the only guy on the planet that ever sold the .tel. I don't know, but I did. I registered Flint.tel back then.
Flint.tel.
Flint. FLINT.tel.
Yeah.
The only reason I remember registering that name is because it was actually a city in Michigan, Flint, Michigan.
Yeah, that's what I was actually thinking.
So I was like, okay, it sounds like a cool name. I'll register it. So I registered like maybe 40, 50 .tels. I don't remember, but that one sold. And there's a long story short, I think a CEO or somebody in Florida, Flint Telecom, called me one day. I was in class in college, and they're like, "You're the guy that owns this name. Would you be interested in selling it?" And I'm like, "Sure." And yeah, no problem. So that was the .tel, .mobies. They were terrible.
And then how much do you recall how much you sold it for?
My first 4-figure sale.
Mm.
Yes. I think it was maybe $1,500, something like
nice. Hey man, that goes a long way in college.
I know, right? I know. So that was my that was one name, and then Cyberpacker. I remember this one, cyberpacker.com. That one sold to some sort of bodybuilding e-com back then store or something, but I have no idea why I registered these names. They just sounded cool to me. I didn't have a system or a process, or that might have been, I think Cyberpacker might have been my first Sea-Doo sale ever.
Yeah. So then was it one of those things? So your strategy then, we'll say, was spray and pray, but like
terrible.
In terms of registering, was it that you were just, putting things together and then it was just kind of like, if it was available, hey, I'll buy it? Or like, what was your thought process during that time?
Back then, I was like, well, I like keywords like online or cyber or the .tel. I don't even remember why I registered those, honestly. I think they were just launching, and I'm like, they sound cool. It's bad strategy right there. So, yeah. However, I did sell one, and I don't know anybody else that has sold the .tel, so I figured make for a good story. So there you have it.
But I think that you hit on an interesting point, because like you said, you had 40 to 50 of these .tels,
right?
But you only sold one. And while some people can say, hey, you were successful, the reality is it's kind of like, well, that's 1 out of 40. And probably when you look at that ratio versus the ratio where you're at today in terms of some of your .com sales, it pales in comparison. And so you did that for just hand registering, spraying and praying for how long? Was that like a couple years, 5 years, or?
Probably for 5 years. I did started buying better names. Back then it was Snap Names and NameJet. I did started buying some better names. Yeah, I didn't really have a strategy. I didn't really know how to. My problem was I didn't know how to price correctly. I think it's very important to.
And how were you pricing?
Just based on other people's feedback, which is which is really bad advice. Because somebody in India might be happy with $300 for a .com or something like that, but I just didn't have a process, didn't know what I was doing, and I was like, for 5-6 years, probably breaking even. And I was ready to be like, okay, I'm going to turn the key on this. It's kind of like a hobby,
Right.
It's I'm going to either have to turn the key on this, or I got to get really good and figure something out. So kind of transitioned from there into, I decided that, okay, I got to get a mentor. I decided there's just no other way. There's just, so many podcasts, so many articles. I was getting advice from left and right, and kind of information overload. So I decided that a couple of hundred names are not going to cut it. They were terrible names. In retrospect, I should have probably dropped 99% of them, which I have, and I need to start over. So that's what I did. I decided to start over, basically.
Wow. So 5 years in now, it's not to say that it was a colossal failure. I mean, you had some Easter eggs along the way, I'll say.
I did. Luck. I call that luck. A beginner's luck.
It's like, hey, a clock is right at least twice a day. So, and so that's kind of the same strategy. It was kind of like, well, out of the couple hundred names, you were going to sell, the odds are that you're going to sell probably a handful of these names. But where you really, or at least what you were alluding to here, is where you were hoping to was really get a consistent process and being able to determine when and where and the likelihood of a purchase, so that basically, one, that would help you with cash flow management and the great renewal monster that's always knocking at the door of investors. But yeah, so you start over, and I mean, kind of walk us through that moment where you just kind of said, you know what, I've got to start over. I've got to flush the proverbial toilet of all these domains down the drain and just start over. Kind of what was your mindset, and what was the first action that you took to write the course?
Well, I remember I was reading Mike Mann. The man. He's one of my favorites of all time. I'm like, wow, this guy he has like a collection of, I can't remember back then, 200,000 names. And then he has these pretty monster sales, I'd say, consistently every month.
Right.
But I'm like, well, however, I don't have millions of dollars to buy, 200,000 names. So I started studying him a little bit. This is before I reached out to him. I started studying him. I started building my own process for the first time. Really, in domain investing, there's only two paths I see you can take. You can do the quality route, or you do you can get into the quantity route, like Mike Mann was doing. So the quality route is great if you can afford to do that. And when I say that, I'm referring to some guys out there. I won't say any names. Some big guys that they own a couple of hundred names of singlewords.com, 3letters.com, the stellar names that they've acquired 20 years ago, in the .com bubble, or before, or right after, right about then. And that's great, but those names would cost, 5,000, 10,000, 20,000. Right. You have to put a lot of capital in to play the quality game, and to go the quality route. I'm gonna pick Rick as an example because I think he's a great guy. Rick S. His last tweet here not that long ago, he said he waited 24 years to sell, this amazing oneword.com or something like that. I can't remember. And that's great, but I don't know about you guys, but I don't want to wait 24 years to make this crazy $250,000 sale. You know what I'm saying? So I'm more the guy, Rick is right off here. He's selling the Ferraris. I'm the guy right below him selling like Toyota Camrys. I'm cool with that. I'm cool with that. So you can play the quality game, or you can play the quantity game and do some adjustments. I like to leverage quantity to minimize the time in between the sales, which would translate into cash flow. So
Right.
that's how my model works. It's actually not rocket science. It's, you got quality on one side, one lever, and you got quantity. So what I did is just tweak things to meet quality and quantity to minimize the time between a sale. Probably took me a couple of years to get really good at it.
Right.
So then I acquired, I like hand registering names. I think there's a lot of opportunity in hand registering names, or very cheap back orders, or I don't really like to go on auctions and battle for for the big names. I avoid that if I can.
So let me ask you this. So, because you hit on an interesting point. So you have the levers there of quality, quantity, and then
Yes.
obviously, pulling those lever changes. It's really, you touch any one of those and it changes the other. So it's almost like
Exactly.
you're trying to find that perfect equilateral triangle.
The fine line. There's the fine line between
Right.
quality and quantity. I'm always chasing that fine line between quality and quantity to tweak the time between sales.
Correct.
I'm to a point where now I can say, I know I'm going to have at least one inbound deal a week, which is
Awesome.
great to say something like that. So I
And are
know
you
I'm
able
going to
to
have,
predict the amount?
I can somewhat accurately predict the amount. However, I can predict with accuracy that I can have between 3 and 5 deals a month.
Okay.
So month after month, I know that's what I'm gonna have, and I need to make, just tweak different adjustments in my portfolio, and I can control that. With also price plays a big role in the equation too.
Right.
Obviously, you can't, you're not gonna sell $100,000 names every month or anything like that. So again, I'm the Toyota Camry sales guy. 5,000 and under, 5,000 and under, the Nissan Maximas, right? Not the
Exactly.
Ferraris. So yeah, so that way you can produce some cash flow.
Right. That
That
and
was what
then
was appealing to me. So
because I think for you there's and like I said, definitely keep me honest here, but it appears to be you found this quality, quantity, and time
yes,
mechanism that's working well for you in such a
yes,
way that, one, because of the quantity, you're having to replace those domains. So obviously, but the domains have to bring in X amount, in terms of revenue, as well as, most importantly, profit. But at the same time, because you're a full-time domain investor, so I'm assuming then that you probably have to be very careful in terms of how you price things, because there is a bit of what you live off of, but as well there is probably also that reinvestment piece, as well, I would assume.
exactly. No. You're exactly right. I mean, you have to come up with a system that will pay for renewals, and you got to have a little bit of meat on the bone for yourself too, right? So pricing wise, let's talk about price for a second. The pricing strategies, my pricing strategy is simple. I break names down in 3 buckets. Names that are 5,000 and under, first bucket, 5,000 to 10,000, and then 10,000 and over. You get into 5 figures. Super simple, 3 buckets. So when I buy a name, I in 2 minutes I know which bucket's going to fit. The velocity of sales is in the first bucket, the 5,000 and under. That's kind of the sweet spot, I think, especially for bin pricing, for buy now pricing. The majority of the sales will happen in that bracket. I think it's also easier to put a domain purchase that's 5,000 and under on a credit card without having to do bank transfers.
Right.
I'm thinking path of least resistance here, right? Like when you price something, if it's going to be 10 grand, chances are your prospect will have to make a bank transfer.
Right.
That can complicate things. It can take days. They might change their mind. I don't know, but something might happen.
Yeah,
Might
that's
happen
a
to
deep
them.
That's a deep psychological thinker right there. When I have to go make or wire a bank payment
Yes.
versus
Yes.
swiping, I'll swipe,
Right.
swipe for gas, swipe for
Right.
chips, swipe for dinner, swipe for domain. But when I have to bank wire, that's a different mindset, or
Exactly.
can be.
Exactly. So 5,000 and under, it's where you're gonna get most sales,
Right.
because path of least resistance is easy. You can put it on a corporate card, et cetera, et cetera. And the next bracket would be somewhere between 5 and 10.
Mm.
Would be the second bracket. I think you can get a couple of a month of those if you know what you're doing. And then obviously the hardest would be 10 to 20, and bucket number three would be 10,000 and over.
Right.
Those don't happen very often, but they do happen. So as far as pricing goes, simple, three buckets. It's first, second, or third bucket. I like to keep things simple. I like to keep things path of least resistance. Well, if I was a prospect, what what's the process here?
Right.
And then a skill that I didn't have initially, I didn't know how to price names. I didn't really know how to price names till I asked for some help. And I asked the man, hey, I want to be, be like, I want to be mentored by him. So of course he's a busy guy. He told me no. I reached by email. He
Mike
said,
Man denied you.
yeah, he did. And he said, no, I don't have time, or I don't do mentors. I think I wrote him like 2, 3 emails. And then finally, I kept bugging him. This was years ago. Uh, and then he said, tell you what, I'll do, if you have deals and you're negotiating deals, just email them over to me, and I'll look over and give you some advice. So when I say a mentor, I mean all it was is just an exchange of emails, basically. However, I did have a bunch of deals that he looked over and he coached me, and that's really how I learned to price names, and kind of gave me some of his secret sauce, so to speak. And what I
Nice.
realized is that uh, I think my opinion is that we all sell too cheap, but
Mm.
since I didn't have a process, I was just happy with whatever, right? So what I
Right.
realized was that he actually has a process. So then I him coaching me and everything, I learned how to properly price domain names, because I was actively negotiating deals, and he was giving me feedback sometimes the same day. I did close some bigger deals. I think my coaching ended when I sold a services keyword name that would be the biggest services keyword name that's not going to be ever reported.
Wow.
Just me and him know about it. So
Mm.
so as far as pricing goes, I learned from him. And
Now, did it change? Did it change how? Because before you were spraying and praying, and
right.
while it's one thing to get the quality, the quantity, the timing, and the pricing bit down, did you have to change the proverbial lenses, so to say, in terms of how you went about seeing domains as assets when you purchased? Because obviously it's like real estate. You don't make your money when you sell, you make your money on the buy.
On the
And
buy.
so
Right.
it's like domain names. So was there a mindset that you had to overcome in terms of your purchase pattern, and what you were looking for and what you were willing to buy and not buy?
Right. Yeah. Good question. And yeah, a lot of things had to change. Well, the first decision I made was that I made some bigger sales. I'm like, now what do I do? So I decided to go big and scale. I think this was probably the second most important decision after getting a mentor being number one. Number two would be go big. So for all of you guys out there that are looking to get into the domain investing, uh, find a mentor. Plead, beg, Pay if you have to, and then the second step I'd recommend everybody to do is go big, think big. Playing the small game, uh, it's gonna give you good results, but we in business you got to scale.
Right. Now, when you say
You
go
got to get.
big, like give us a scale of what you're talking about in terms of
So I
number of
went.
domains in a portfolio.
Yeah. I went from a couple of hundred domain names to thousands. And I'm looking
Wait, you
at
said
one point. I'm
thousands with an S, right?
thousands. Yes. I'm like,
Oh, wow.
I'm looking to even today. Even today, I'm looking. Okay, how do I get to 50,000? How do I get to 100,000? But
And where are
going
you at
back
today?
then,
Like, I guess how many is a part of your portfolio today?
around I'd say around 10K names. Um,
Man, how do you keep up with that?
it takes a lot of time and effort. And Alvin, I'm the little guy. Mike has 300,000 here. Today. I know other guys that have 50,000 and 20,000 names, and way larger portfolios than me.
Mm.
I started early. I dragged my feet, and just within the last years, I started scaling. But anyways, going back from a couple of hundred names, I started developing my system, and I started buying big, and a lot more names, and scaling in the quantity side of things.
Mm.
And I was like, okay, well, I focused on only four niches, which would be healthcare, tech, finance, and the service industry. So those four categories, if the name doesn't fit in one of those, I don't want it. I don't want nothing to do with it.
So Austin Tree Trimmers.
Exactly. That would be a service
So
type
that's
name.
gotcha. Okay. So Austin
Right.
Nail Salon.
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
you
Those are geos. So yeah. Great
okay.
names. The coronavirus era we're in.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I gotta say, um, plumbers are not going anywhere. You need a
That is
toilet.
true.
You work from home. You need internet. You need food, and you need your health. You're gonna need a toilet, electricity. So I think plumbing names are gonna explode the next couple of years. Plumbing, electrical, HVAC, roofing. If you have some solid roofing names, you're gonna do very well. Plumbing names, et cetera, et cetera. So I specialize in these four categories. Health is always, I mean, everybody's talking about vaccines and everything like that. I mean, it's never a better time to buy healthcare and health related names than right now.
Yeah.
Same thing with tech. And when I say tech, I'm thinking e-commerce, crypto, everything.
Right.
Everything is moving online. We live in the corona era where everything is switching online. Brick and mortar stores are getting kind of,
And they're getting hammered.
they're getting hammered, clubbed to death.
Yeah. I mean, they're for the ones that especially don't want to go online, they are getting hammered,
Right.
and it's it's sad to see because to a certain extent, this is that moment in history and time to where if you didn't make the pivot,
Right.
then you kind of you put yourself behind the proverbial eight ball.
Yeah, you're in a bad spot. You're in a bad spot if you're not joining the e-com bandwagon, as I say. I recently got rid of all my travel, restaurants, airline companies. I mean, these industries are, to me, they're dead. Because of Corona. They're scrapping cruise line. The cruise lines are scrapping ships in Turkey. They're selling them, and they're dismantling ships for scrap. So anything tourism related, anything aviation. I mean, I think the airlines will probably ask for another bailout in 2021.
Wow.
And a lot of them will probably go under. Same thing with restaurants. I used to sell quite a few names in the food industry, restaurants and cafe. One of my favorite keywords used to be the cafe keyword, and restaurant keywords. They're dead. I'm dropping, and I'm not buying at all. I mean, if you're a restaurant, hotel names or anything like that, or tourism, I don't invest. So, and I wouldn't advise anybody to invest.
So then the names that you're investing in are likely, I'm assuming, then either geo or brandable keyword type names.
Correct.
And so, it'd be something like austincafe.com or what I guess what Aardvark Roofing.
Let me give you an example. Some of my better geos would be like Los Angeles Roofing. Stellar name, get offers all the time for it. Portland Towing. Miami Furniture. Names like these generic geos are gonna be in super high demand moving into the future. And then again, I study sales for hours every day and on weekends, and I only buy certain keywords. I'm a keyword investor. I look at previous sales, I study previous sales, I see what sells, and see what doesn't sell, and I make a list of I keep a list of my favorite keywords. And then that's why I hand register, and I flip names that I hand register for a registration fee to 4 or 5 figures. Wow. Some of my favorite keywords would be financial keywords. I can give you example: management, finance, media. The top popular ones. There's a lot of popular ones, and a lot of people battle on them at auctions on names like that. Like media is a hot keyword. Crypto is a hot keyword. Group names, hot keywords. Construction, another hot keyword. I only buy certain names based on data. Based on data.
So then walk us through it then, just to give an example in terms of, so you look at sales, you look at this data, you figure out, I guess you run your own numbers, your data, then I'm assuming that you spin certain words for different domain names, then that you go out and go to, your favorite registrar, bulk search it. And then based on that, kind of walk us through kind of what goes through your mind in terms of, if you have 500 domains you throw at it, it returns 400. Like, is that, I buy all 400 of those? Kind of what's your mindset?
Yeah. No. Wait, I don't. If you look at a list of, if I look at a list of 1,000 domain names, chances are I might register 3, maybe 4.
Really? Why is that?
They got to pass through all my filters, and one of my filter is the name has to have search volume, a minimum search value, and a minimum CPC, cost per click. If the name has no search volume or a minimum cost per click, it's an automatic. It's an automatic no.
Right. It's a no for you. Now
it's a no for me.
It doesn't mean that it doesn't have value, but at least per your strategy, it doesn't meet the cutoff.
Right. Now, there are exceptions with brandable names. Some brandable names, made up words or 6letter.coms or something like that. Then there's a different process I go about. But as far as 90% of the names, if they don't have search volume and cost per click, don't, just move along. Move on to the next.
And we keep walking, moving right along.
Right. Then I'd say I have the list of my keywords, of my favorite keywords, that I prefer. By the time I apply my keywords filter on the 1,000 name batch that I'm looking at, that's gonna pretty much drop that list to maybe 20 options that meet the search volume, cost per click, and my keyword requirements. And then from that smaller list of 20, I go further into research, and I research manually each name for about 2 to 3 minutes. Usually on that list, I got to a point where I know the 2, 3 right off the bat that I'm going to end up with.
Right.
And those are names like, let me give you an example of a recent sale I had: Warrior Management.
Okay.
Keyword management. It's one of my favorites. And then Warrior, the other keyword, put together, it has some search volume. You do a little bit of digging and research. There's a lot of end users for it. So boom, that would be the type of name I'd buy for my list. Here's another one that a recent sale that I had was westwinggroup.com.
Okay.
So very simple. Group, another hot keyword that I buy all the time. This one is actually, I guess you'd call it a 3word.com, West Wing Group.
Correct.
So then in a list, I automatically, okay, West Wing Group. So I take that name, put it through my filters, and I'll be like, okay, search volume, cost per click, possibly some end users. That would be another name I'd pick. So just basically I have a process and certain filters, and I filter, some days up to 10,000 names a day. And I may get 10 to 20 gems. I'll find 10 to 20 gems in there that I would hand register every day. Same process. If it's health, tech, finance, and service industry, if it's got cost per click and search volume, does it meet my keyword requirements? And then boom, do a little research, and it's very simple. Very, very simple process I created, and I don't buy anything else.
So like no expired auctions. So you're not getting in there bidding and battling.
Not much
these days.
I have. There's drop catch. There's I'm the guy that's on GoDaddy closeouts. Filtering GoDaddy closeouts for $12. That's where I'm
clean up man. The cleanup man.
I'm the cleanup man. I let the other guys pay, a couple of grand or whatever on 4letter.coms, and there's obviously some great brandables that get auctioned every day. But I'm like, nah, I'm gonna do my I'm gonna leverage quantity, and a lot of guys will not agree with me, which is perfectly fine. But if I help somebody else out, or if I spark somebody else's interest, and they wanna, if you have no money and you wanna start, there's other ways than just buying super expensive names and holding them for 10, 20 years and and hope to cash out. That's not me. I'm not that. I don't play that game.
So then tell me this. So now you hit a point. So you said it's simple for you, and while it is, because you have a process, you have a system, you have rhyme and reason for what you're doing. And so while that's good, I think probably the critical point, I know that most listeners, especially new domain investors, and probably some seasoned domain investors even wonder about, is it's easy enough to buy, but I think many times domain investors can get trapped into the euphoric feeling of buying. So I purchased this domain, but now what? Like, what's the next step? It's a part of my portfolio, but okay, well, now what do I do? What are my next
Right.
steps? Is it parking? Is it,
Right.
outbounding? Is it setting up landers, adding it to marketplace? Like
Right.
what's your thought process there?
So here's another one that I strongly believe in. Distribution is king. And when I say distribution is king, I say, and I'm going to ask you and your audience, do you guys think that Starbucks is the best coffee in the world? That
Nah,
would
but
be a
they're on
question.
every other corner.
Exactly. So Starbucks is not the best coffee in the world, but they're the most popular. They're the most advertised. They're the most seen and the most consistent. So I love Starbucks, because I always know what I get out of my cafe latte, right? And at every corner. So in my opinion, even though the little small coffee shop that nobody has heard about is probably has the best coffee, in my opinion, Starbucks is the best because
Mm,
they dominate and they have the best distribution. How do we apply this to domain sales? Well, let's get back to domain sales. Now that you have some names, I strongly suggest that you should list your names on Afternic, Sea maybe Dan.com. However, I list on all three. I list on all three. It takes a lot of more time. It's actually, you can only imagine how much time it takes to deal with thousands of names. It takes a
hmm
lot of time.
right.
But Afternic and GoDaddy has the biggest distribution network. So as far as I'm concerned, you have to be on Afternic and GoDaddy. You just have to be. If you
Right.
want sales and consistent sales, you have to be. Then Cedo, I don't know, whatever you guys call it. I call it Cedo. uh, they appeal to a lot of the Euro buyers because I think their partners are like Yonos in Europe and one in one domains, I think,
hmm
also is a partner of Cedo. So Cedo also reaches the European market better than Afternic does.
Uh,
So what I do is first list on Cedo, and because they have automatic verification, you can do the DNS verification, or you can do a text record, and
right.
to add all your names and price, and then maybe wait a couple of days and jump on Afternic, and then list my names, my new acquisitions on After. And then what you could do is you could leave Afternic landers. I had great success. Or you could maybe switch to Dan landers because they charge a little bit less commission.
Mm.
I think 9% instead of 15 or 20. So yeah, distribution is king. Some people will say, well, you don't want to put your names everywhere and spam them everywhere.
That is true.
That's not me. Okay. If you're in sales, you got to get in front of people. You got to be on all platforms.
Right.
I know Rick doesn't agree with my statement, but Rick has $1 million assets. We don't. so, so
The
so
domain king, Rick
so
Schwartz. That is indeed. That's true. That's true.
yes, he some of his advice is like, oh, don't put your names everywhere. I don't agree with that. I think you should not spam people, but I do think that distribution is king, and you should have them on Sea-Doo, Afternic, maybe even a custom lander in the end. I
Right.
don't know. So as far as the marketplaces go, that's my preference. That's how I do it. You don't have to do it like I do. I'm not a financial advisor, so please, guys, whatever I say, consult with your financial advisor, your wife,
Uh,
whatever you do before you make any financial decisions. So,
Definitely. So then
disclaimer.
tell me this, like if you had anybody, obviously you had the You were graced with the opportunity to be, I guess, mentored by Mike Mann. Now, if there were anybody that you'd like to sit down with to have a conversation about domains, who would that person be and why?
You always got to reach up. That's my opinion. And I'd want to reach up a little further, like maybe talk to Frank Schilling, if I could, one day. I mean, he's I think he did his exit at the right time, and GoDaddy acquired Uni Registry, and he would be the guy to talk to next, as far as I'm concerned, because mergers and acquisitions, that's the next level, above and beyond. He'd and that's why I'm saying join a mastermind group or get a mentor. And then once you become the smartest person in the room, keep reaching up.
So then wrapping up, I guess what would your advice be to someone who's starting their journey in domain investing? Like, where is the first place they should start?
First place they should start.
It's like, have money.
Right. Go to the bank. Go to the bank. Hey, by the way, they're giving money at the bank for free. You don't have to rob them today, guys. There's like almost 0% interest rates. You just run with the wheelbarrow and be like, hey, fill it up.
Exactly.
Well, I think that the first step for new domain investors, they got to decide which path they're gonna take. Do you want to buy quality names and go on that path? Right. Or do you want to maybe build your own system and do quantity and less quality, and if you want cash flow? So first step would be you have to make a decision. The next thing I'd recommend for a new investor is find a mentor or join a mastermind group, or join the Domaining Academy, or there's all kinds of programs out there to better yourself. So reach up. When you're at the bottom, when you're the little guy, the only way you could really go is up, unless you do the spraying and praying and you just wing it. Then you go down. So,
when digging a hole, stop and put the shovel down.
Right. So get some help right out the gate. I wish I didn't waste so much time.
Yeah.
I would be, if I was going to go back to 10 years ago, I wish I'd got a mentor. Then I wish I would have, think big and go big. That would be my next advice. And then, keep scaling and keep improving.
That's awesome.
For new investors out there. Don't spend money. Be frugal and get help first.
Right. So, right. Invest in yourself.
Invest in yourself first. Right. If you have $5,000, you invest in yourself first. Don't. It doesn't apply just to domains. Don't don't just go blow it on buy equipment and tools, and first you got to invest in yourself. So,
right.
And then make a decision and build a process and a system. I do not believe that life is a journey, guys. If you're one of those guys that believe that life is a journey and there's a rainbow at the end, I'm not that guy.
Shoot, I thought life was a highway. Who knew?
Exactly.
It's a process.
I believe it's a process, and I'm tackling things that way. I'm not the journey guy, not me. So, yeah.
That's well, last but not least, I mean, is there anything that you would like to share with listeners in terms of how they can get in contact with you or how they can follow you on social media?
The reason I decided to in the first place to kind of come out and share with all these domain, with you and the domain investors and domain investing world is because I believe there's a lot of people that can and will not. I'm the guy that will give you, the secret sauce for free. And I do that on usually on Twitter. I'm very active on Twitter. You can follow me at alexverdea.com, ALEXVERDEA on Twitter.
My man drops tips and tricks daily.
Exactly. I drop tips and tricks every day. If you want to build a system like I do, I'm every day doing handbrake tips, doing negotiation tactics. I'm a sales guy too. I'm passionate about sales, so I discuss a lot of sales topics too. I'm actually probably the only guy that I know that I don't just report a sale. Recently, I've been given screenshots of how did the negotiation, the behind the curtain, how did the negotiation occur, and how did the deal got closed. I think that helps investors more than just saying, "Oh, I sold his name for this amount of money." I don't think you give a lot of value that way. So I give a lot of sales tips, hand registration tips, and everything like that. So Twitter at Alex Verdea. That's how they can your audience can find me.
Awesome. Well, with that, we're out of time. So Alex, thank you again for joining us today and sharing your domain investing experience.
Alvin, thank you for having me. It was fun. Thank you.
Yeah, and thank you, listeners, for tuning in to Kickstart Commerce, where we share search marketing and domain name strategies to help grow your business. Please subscribe to this podcast via iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, Spotify, or Podbean. Last but not least, please visit kickstartcommerce.com to subscribe to the newsletter sharing tips and tricks about the disciplines of digital strategy. Thanks, and that's all for now.